Tom, are you okay?
I lost her.
Her?
She was going to be this epic trilogy-worthy character. I was going to be the hottest writer in Hollywood. But I can't get past Act 1.
You need some writers group therapy. Hello and welcome to Writers Group Therapy.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Roshni. We're writers helping writers. Are you ready for your session? The doctors are in. And if you like what you hear, make sure you check us out on writersgrouptherapy.com. Also on Twitter, we're at WG Therapy. Same for our Instagram. And our individual handles, I'm at Roshni Lumino.
And I'm Tom_Loveman on Instagram. No, I'm not. I'm Tom_Loveman on Twitter. Tom Loveman on Instagram.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I'm Roshni Lumino on Twitter, and on Instagram, I'm at Moonlily Music.
Yeah.
So let's just get clear.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting clear, I think one of the topics that's really been coming up in our writers group recently, and just in general, is fair use and
Mm-hmm.
using copyrighted characters and brands and all sorts of things. And this actually came up because I was at a preview for Wreck-It Ralph 2, which, if you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. It's such a cute movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch it, you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
You saw it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So you know how, like, when they go into the internet, for example, what the big place that they're trying to go to is eBay, right? That's like the crux of the whole film. They want to go to eBay. But then they also have things like, Twitter, but then what's it? Slaughter Race is kind of a parody of some other video games that are out there. So some things are spot on, like eBay,
Mm-hmm.
and then some things are just sort of like BuzzTube is just a sort of slanted, you know what it
Mm-hmm.
is, but they're not going to say YouTube or BuzzFeed
Right.
right. And I thought it was interesting because they actually talked about it. I mean, obviously it's Disney, so they can do pretty much whatever they want. But when they made the film and then they approached eBay, but like, hey, can we use it? And eBay's like, yeah, sure. But there are definitely times when brands don't want you to use their stuff.
Yeah, well, actually, I did a little research, and the writers producers of the movies of Ralph Breaks the Internet didn't actually ask anybody for approval. They just did it because they felt like it was everything, all that stuff's in our lives so much all day. We use it every day.
Hmm.
That they wanted to have things that they actually use. They didn't want to have a lot of fake stuff. And they actually went around the world because they knew this was going to be a global film, and they found things from other countries and other places that they could use in the movie. So when those people watched it, they would see things that they could relate to. But they didn't care about asking for permission.
Well, like I said, it is Disney. They might not really need to, But yeah, I mean, and I think eBay. Now that you mentioned that, I think the producers did say that in the interview. And when they approached eBay, eBay was like, "Hey, it's free publicity. Sure,
Yeah, well,
why
it
not?"
depends. It depends on what aspect you're going to be portraying them as, and as far as if you don't know what fair use is, it's a it allows you to use copyrighted or trademark material if it's done in a specific way that does not, criticize or defame or affect the like marketability of the trademark.
Hmm.
And it also depends on how much you're using it in the thing. If you're using it, if you're trying to make a show or a movie and it's about a guy whose parents die and he becomes a vigilante, even if you don't call him Batman, everyone's going to say, oh, you're knocking off Batman. But if one of your
Hmm.
characters just wearing a Batman T-shirt or something like that, like I think in The Big Bang Theory, they all dressed up like Marvel characters at one episode. That's obviously parody, and you're not trying to bank off of the characters as so much as make a commentary about society and culture and those kinds of things.
Yeah, parody and educational are usually the top two fair use reasons people give when they're using brand names or quotes, video clips, sound clips, things like that.
Right. And you can always see this. Oh, I love this. When you go to the Halloween time, you go to the costume shop.
Oh,
Yeah, because these people are selling costumes, so they're making money, and so they can't sell an Indiana Jones costume. They'll sell an archaeologist costume, though. Or one of the funny ones I saw was, who do you think Where's the Stripes dude is?
oh, we talked about this, and I thought it was Beetlejuice.
It's not. It's well, that would be a good one. It's Where's Waldo? And then they had a guy with a green wig and white face on, and they called that the Green Villain, which would be
Oh,
the Joker.
jeez.
So those are creative ways people get around copyright infringement and trademark infringement. They, there's a fine line there, I think. And of course, we should have started this whole episode by saying we are not lawyers.
That's true. Yeah,
Yes, consult.
talk to your lawyer, talk to your ethics professor, and all that good stuff about what
Yeah.
constitutes fair use. But it's interesting that you bring up the character costumes at Halloween, because one reason they have to do that is because they are making money off of a trademarked brand. But if you're
Right.
just doing it in a movie, like you're writing a film and the character happens to love Pepsi or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Is it a parody? Is it fair
Yeah.
use because they just happen to like that and Pepsi is a real brand? Or are you suddenly copyright infringement?
Well, there's two different things. You've got trademarks and copyrights. Batman, Superman, that kind of stuff. Those are trademarks. Those characters are trademarked. Versus copyright is like when you're copying actual material, like pages of a script or a book or
Hmm.
video from a movie. That's copyright. So you need just a little differentiate. The fair
True.
use kind of plays the same in both of them, but they're two different things. Yeah, and I mean, you can always use references. Like you can always say, "Oh, he's strong as Superman." That's just a reference. There's nothing you can say about that.
Hmm.
You're not commenting about Superman. You're commenting about another character and using that as a metaphor, and that's just all part of our dialogue and our popular culture.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it was funny. I was actually just thinking about, this is not quite fair use, but it is again an example of how entrenched brand names are in our culture. Most people, if you need to blow your nose, they would say, "Get me a Kleenex," not "Get me a tissue."
Right. Oh,
Because it's
exactly.
so in our heads.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, Xerox was very upset when people started using their name as a general term for copy, or photocopying. And
Hmm.
Google also didn't like people saying, "Oh, let's Google that." They don't like they I don't know if they've embraced it now, but at first they were really upset by that. They wanted people to say, "Use Google as your search engine," kind of, that kind of thing, and Band-Aid as well, things like that.
Yeah.
They all nobody wants their brand name to be turned into a commonplace, you know, just generic verb for something.
But it's so in our
It
in our in our
happens.
brains. Yeah.
That's
Way to
hard
go,
to do.
advertisers.
You can't police that. You can't go around ticketing people or something for using saying, "Oh, I googled you," or whatever.
Yeah. So how come then, taking the Wreck-It Ralph example again, they're okay with that, but then, for example, some of the scripts that have come through our writers group, we had one gal who, her piece was set in a con, like it was all about people going to different conventions, and so of course they were dressing up as like Harley Quinn and the Joker, and we were talking about that. Is it okay to use it in the book? And then last night we had a writer who brought in something set in a theme park, and instead of saying Magic Kingdom, she had a different name for it. So where are the lines? I guess.
Yeah, well, that's her book. It was a book she was working on, I believe.
Hmm.
Is definitely a very it's a it's not a visual medium. It's you're gonna read it, so she has to say these things like dressed as Princess Leia, dressed as Han Solo, dressed as stormtroopers. Those are all pretty tightly controlled properties. But there have been many movies that have done that. In fact, they use them in Ralph Breaks Internet too. The stormtroopers chase Princess Vanellope around.
But Disney owns Star Wars now,
Yeah, they
so
already own
that's
them.
not really,
They didn't have
yeah.
to really worry about it. Yeah, so I was wondering the same thing when we read her materials, because I think one of her characters was dressed as Harley Quinn, and
Mhm.
and that's a question we didn't really have an answer for that because it's a pretty big part of the scenes that she's in where she's dressing like that. So I don't know how far you can go with that. Yeah. Now Harley Quinn doesn't have like a logo like the Bat logo or the Superman logo, so it's more of an outfit. And if she's not being overtly like acting the character, then maybe it's not as big an issue. And there have been certainly been several kind of Kevin Smith movies. I think they did some stuff with Princess Leia and those sorts of things before, so it's been done obviously. I
Mhm.
think in a lot of times if you're not causing any harm to the character, if it's truly like a fan thing, it's being done as an homage, which is kind of like another form of parody. You can do that. And then also in those case situations, if you went to the copyright owner, they might be okay with it if they like what you're doing with it. So I don't promote the ask forgiveness rather than permission phase, because if you do that, you could really be in trouble. You could lose your entire project. You might never see the light of day if you do that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I would also have to say it's probably how it's being used, like you said earlier, and how much. If this character is Harley Quinn for like 90% of the book and is talking like Harley Quinn and, doing all her
Yeah,
fight moves or whatever, that's pretty much a Harley Quinn comic, versus like she just happened to wear the t shirt in one scene.
right. Well,
So,
and costumes and fashion, I did find an article about this. You cannot copyright fashion. So the fashion industry, basically a t-shirt or a dress, those are anything you wear, it's a utilitarian thing, and the fact
hmm,
that it has something on it does not make it copyrightable. Trademarks, yes, can be, you have to license things like for sports teams and for, comic book characters have to be licensed. You can't just go out and make Batman t-shirts.
hmm,
But if somebody's wearing that, it's not like that in itself is something that would be infringing, because it's just utilitarian. They're just wearing it, and if it's just because that's what the character was wearing that day, it's okay. It doesn't have to, it doesn't affect the brand at all.
yeah.
I mean, unless your character goes out as a murderer or something like that, then that would be bad.
So, how about for all of you? What questions do you have regarding fair use? Let us know and we'll keep doing our research. Find us online at writersgrouptherapy.com or at WG Therapy, and we'll see you next week.